Welcome to episode 4 of the White Whale Marketing Podcast. I'm Christian Nascimento, and with me today, some of the guys from the White Whale team. We have AJ, and we also have Haral with us today, as always. And, before we begin, I don't know if I've done this in the past episodes, but subscribe to our YouTube channel, or if you're listening on Facebook or Twitch, take the time to give us a like, follow, subscribe, whatever it is. Much appreciated. And if you want to find us on other platforms at White Whale Marketing on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, PSN. We're on PSN as well. And just remember that. So wherever you want, you can game with us. Anything you'd like, find us there, even on podcasting platforms like Google. So check us out there. But with that, let's get into today's podcast. As always, we're in collaboration with the Sport Marketeer. You can see the logo here, just where Haral is. And essentially what this podcast entails is the topics covered in the newsletter each week, which come out on Friday, is going to be what we're going to be talking about. So the 3 topics today are, the first one is with AJ in regards to Allen Iverson and Reebok launching a new shoe, and they're getting back into the AR game where people can find courts from anywhere. The second story is going to be in regards to a NCAA quarterback from the Miami Canes partnering with the Florida Panthers in the NHL, and they're doing a partnership there, which is pretty interesting, right? NCAA quarterback helping out an NC or an NHL team. Very interesting. Getting my words all stumbled here with all the different leagues. And last but not least, we talked about it last week, but the show goes on. You gotta talk about Messi, especially when he signs, because that's the big news around the world, right? So we're gonna get into the topic about Messi finally going to PSG. Last week we talked about, hey, what effects does it have, him leaving Barca? Now we're going to talk about the impact of him going to that new club, right? So those are some great topics. And with that, let's get into AJ's topic here, and Reebok and Allen Iverson. So let's kick it off, AJ.
Yeah, so last week saw an article here, and just so you guys understand, Reebok, obviously they have their basketball stuff, they have winter sports apparel, mainly do shoes, as they're an Adidas-based company. But last week, Reebok released an app called Courting Greatness, an AR-style digital tool that uses a smartphone's built-in camera and measurement features to map out the dimensions and ingredients of a basketball court, allowing the users to fill in real-life features however they choose. So as you guys can probably see on the screen there, you got that blue background. It shows that little line at the bottom, the 3-point line, 20 feet. It shows the key, and it shows where the regulation hoop would be. What they're doing on top of this is not only will users have access to this app, but also they'll be able to kind of collaborate with local artists. So Reebok have actually brought in some local artists in these major cities and kind of created these art installations where they're using like milk buckets and using like pallets to make makeshift basketball courts by using this app. So as you can see in the picture, they've used like pallets and basically some random trash, and that's a regulation size, and that's the regulation key. There's a key that probably have there's going to be a 20-foot line there for the 3-pointer, and they're all doing this for the release of a shoe. So it's releasing the Reebok's Question Mid, which is the Allen Iverson 4 shoe. The American flag and from the U.S. basketball team for the Olympics in 2004, and they're even going to start doing this in LA. They're going to be doing it in Philly. They're going to do it in New York. Where anyone can download this app, but then they're also going to collaborate with some more artists. So it's interesting to see how they're using AR. From my point of view, I don't know the effectiveness of it, so that's what I kind of want to ask you. Do you guys even see this as being effective? Can you see people in the streets of New York and the streets of Philly saying, let me download the Reebok app and use AR to, figure out where I can play basketball? That's my question.
Haral, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I know street ball is taken much more seriously in the States than it is up here. I've watched I've watched a couple of random YouTube videos of guys hooping, and whether it's the streets of New York, Miami, anywhere in the States. I know they definitely know what it's like to run a street ball game there. The first thing that you mentioned when you talked about the AR app, I thought of literally these past couple of summers when my friends and I would play basketball at a random court or just a random school. Deciding where the 3-point line is or where the clear line was one of the things that we wasted a lot of time doing, and kind of thinking about the fact that if there was an app where we could just, use augmented reality, just walk until a point where the app tells us this is where the 3-point line is, it does make it feel cool. I think it's definitely a really interesting and useful tool for kids who play on driveways, or even just teenagers and young adults who are playing, like, on any place they can play basketball. So, like, whether it's an alleyway, whether it's someone's driveway, a school park, or something like that, and being able to try to really mimic the NBA dimensions or an actual court dimensions. It's cool from a branding perspective because you get to feel like you're creating your own court, but at the same time for training purposes as well. Like, if you want to know what it's like to shoot a 3-pointer like an NBA star, now you have an app to do that. So for a practicality purpose, I think it's cool. I'm really interested to see what the artists do with their courts, because I think that's going to be make and break. Like the picture you see on the screen here, if you create a content piece around this court and using the Adidas app to make this into like what a real basketball court would look like, and then bring in local artists to design it and stuff, that really does give the street ball vibe. And so I think the effectiveness of it will probably come down to how they create content with the app and how they themselves market it around the shoe lodge.
Yeah, I think just like what you said there, sorry to crash in before Chris, you go, but I mean, I see the AR side of it to be really effective in terms of, because most people, they're even in the streets, no matter where you are, there's always courts. They'll always find hoops in places. I know even like my local random rundown community center, there's still hoops, but they may not know where the regulation lines are. So I think that's going to be the most useful part. Like Haral said, I'm interested to see where it goes with these artist concept creations, because I don't know how many people are going to use like a bunch of pallets and water buckets and stuff to play ball. I'm sure they could find hoops somewhere. So I think it'll be interesting to see how they do with that. Or even if people just want to use it for the AR side, it'll be interesting to see how they move forward with it.
Yeah, I agree with what both of you. I can't speak today with what both of you guys are saying, right? But I there's like so many things that just making me think about this, right? Where obviously, let's talk about the art part of it, right? It is going to drive people to maybe, hey, let's go almost like Pokemon Go, right? Where you're going to go to certain areas just to see these art installations, right? Where, I live downtown here, and if you have, I don't know, sometimes they paint these murals with wings. You'll see like a group of people waiting to take pictures on like a Sunday at that mural. So maybe the same thing can be said here, right? Especially if we go back to this image here, you go see that Reebok put their logo there. People are being taken pictures. They're with the logo, all this stuff. It's driving people, and they're getting recognition with the logo. My words are awful today. But then kind of building that as well. Obviously, there's that cool part of, you can do art stuff. But I mean, in the practicality sense, what you guys were touching on, I think especially with COVID and, the potential of a fourth wave, knock on wood, that doesn't happen. But, if courts do end up closing again and then kids are stuck at home, or kids can't go back to school, or so on and so forth, it gives them opportunity to kind of be creative right at home, right? Maybe they're in their garage and take a cardboard box and they put it on the shelf, and then, maybe they step back a bit and they just try doing some free throws inside, or I don't know, like let's say even their backyard, like playing basketball on the grass. Obviously, that's more from where we're standpoint, and obviously in New York could be a little different. But I do think it almost makes the game more accessible, which I think ends up being a good marketing play down the line, right? Because then if you get more people into basketball now, and then what got them into basketball was Reebok, when they go end up playing competitively, those are the shoes that they're going to have a positive sentiment towards, right? So I think that's something that's powerful. And I don't know, I think there's a bunch of things you can do with it, but I think in the standpoint of, connecting people and realizing, hey, like you can play from anywhere, right? Where, as a kid, I remember I used to drop like a couple of gloves or some boots, right, at the field at school, and that's how we play soccer, right? So I think it's almost something similar, where it's almost like lowering the barrier of entry for people to get into basketball, right? Where, hey, you don't need to go to that crowded court in New York City, or you don't need to, be part of the school team, right? You can go from anywhere, right? You don't need much, I guess. I guess you just got to find maybe like a wine bucket or a paint can, or obviously paint can would be a little small, but like just find something circular to make it accessible, and you're good to go from there. And I find it's a little different though in regards to the shoe launch.
Yeah.
Maybe from the things that you've said and the things that I'm looking at from the pictures we have ready, I don't see how it necessarily connects to the shoe launch.
Well, I got something here for you. In addition to this app, they also released. There's another picture, but it's like I haven't seen it anywhere on socials or anything. They describe it as a basketball court may have boundaries, like we said, like entry barriers, but the sport itself knows no bounds. It is one of the most democratic sports. All you need is a ball, a pair of sneakers, and a surface. Court and Greatness is a community initiative by Reebok that celebrates prospective players through empowering imagination. Its purpose is to facilitate the creation of playing. And they've kind of highlighted the part where it says sneakers, surface, and a ball. Because I think what they're kind of trying to do here is to say, hey, all you need is a ball, which most probably, if they're into basketball, they probably have. A pair of sneakers, which is kind of where they're trying to tie it into the Iverson 4s. And then a surface is what the app creates, right? So I think that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to combine, hey, you just found a court, you can finally play ball, but you're going to need shoes. Hey, we're using the Reebok app. Let me see if I can get these Reebok shoes too. We're trying to tie it in. I don't know how effective that's going to be in terms of if we look at the sales of the Iverson 4s and the engagement on the app. So that'll be kind of interesting if sales goes up as the app users increase. So one thing that I do find interesting is the potential for this, though. It's kind of like when you're talking about Pokemon Go, it kind of introduced the idea of like competition. And sports all about competition, even if it's in like a small community, competition is always there. So I think what they could even do is something I'd find interesting is, for example, like we see on the screen here, the one with the blue background. If there was hundreds of thousands of people across the U.S. and even Canada, if they introduce it, if they could share what type of courts they've created in the most unique places, maybe that'll drive Reebok to actually go there and set up a real court with real nets and real lines and Reebok logos everywhere. It could kind of inspire people to try and go out there and play and post content on TikTok or Instagram or YouTube of them playing at their Reebok created courts. And then I know when I was younger, like anytime that a brand like Adidas, Nike, or Reebok, Under Armour were involved, I was always first one there because I wanted to see if I could get some free stuff. So if people it's inspiring people to go out there and create those courts with the possibility of Reebok getting involved, right? So I think that's kind of like a goal.
Just kind of build on that. I think it's pretty interesting, right? Where you're saying like we just read, right? Where it's kind of to inspire the imagination, kind of saying, hey, you just need a ball, sneakers, and a court, right? And maybe it's what it's trying to do, right? It's kind of spark the imagination that, that new generation of kids that are coming up, they're going to be the next ball players. Because probably the current ones, they're not going to be the ones wearing it. Because growing up, they saw Kobe, LeBron wearing Nikes. And that's why so many people, not in the NHL, in the NBA, are wearing Nikes, right? So maybe now they're just trying to go after that younger demographic. So when they do get to the league, Reebok's going to re-enter, right, the basketball scene. Where maybe right now they're just introducing retros. Well, then with time, they're maybe going to do something similar to Puma, where they're almost going to do a relaunch, right? Because right now, those current people that have that buying power, most likely they're not going to be wearing Reeboks on the court, right? That's not what they grew up like a fan of. So no, it's very interesting. I used to be a huge Reebok guy in regards to like hockey, like when I was younger, right? Where Crosby and then everyone. I remember I wanted a hat with the classic logo. I always had Reebok shoes too.
That old RBK logo. Remember that?
Yeah. No, and obviously with like hipsters and trends on TikTok, not even hipsters, just fashion trends. That's what I'll say. That logo and those Reebok classics is what's coming back. So maybe that's driving some revenue where they can kind of maybe get back in the sports scene again. Yeah, that's good stuff. Do you want to, let's move on to the next topic here, right?
Yeah.
So here, what we got secondly would be the second topic with Harral, right? So that's in regards to the Miami quarterback in the NCAA partnering with the Florida Panthers of the NHL. So Harral, what do you got for us?
Well, we're in the thick of the NHL offseason, and we live in Canada here, like the NHL hockey is king. We see a lot of blogs, a lot of pieces talking about who are the winners and the losers of the offseason. Big name signings like Dougie Hamilton going to the New Jersey Devils. But one of the most interesting signings and maybe the biggest wins of the NHL offseason is the Florida Panthers signing Miami Hurricanes quarterback Derek King. So this ties into the NCAA's new NIL agreement, so the name, image, likeness, where NCAA athletes can now profit off of their name, image, and likeness by entering partnerships and sponsoring deals with interested brands. The Florida Panthers have actually created an FLA athlete program where they're sponsoring local Florida athletes, I assume from the University of Florida and other South Florida universities, to partner with them on social content, attend games, even potentially create merchandise and stuff in order to connect with the South Florida community. What's really interesting about this is that the Florida Panthers are the first professional sports organization to partner with an NCAA athlete, and it's an athlete that's not even aligned with their sport. Really bold move taken by the strategy team at the Florida Panthers. And there's a lot of thoughts there, especially with the market, the Florida Panthers as an organization, and the athlete of Derek King. But I think we should definitely just take it into some discussion here. And I'd love to, maybe get your guys' first reactions on what you guys think the potential is of a team like the Florida Panthers signing a university quarterback to be one of their sponsored athletes.
I'll step in right away because I still remember. I'm not going to forget my reaction in regards to this, because when they first announced, I think I was on a walk or something, and I read Derek King signs with the Panthers. And obviously, I watch football, but not to that extent where I know every single quarterback in college. I'm like, who the hell is this guy? When I first read King, I thought it was a fighter from years back. I'm like, why is he coming out of retirement or something, right? So I actually read it 3 times, no joke. Like, I had to read it 3 times, and then I finally opened the links and be like, hey, like, what is this? Because I don't understand. Because it said quarterback signs with the Panthers. I was like, hey, like, what is going on? Which I think a lot of people, right? It's not something I even necessarily thought of, right? Where props to them, like you're saying, to the strategy team. It is a bold move. I do agree with that. But I think for that market and their interest in the sport, I definitely think that's a cool way to go about it. I think in Canada, maybe that wouldn't be the best way, right? Because Canadians don't necessarily get that pull from college sports. But considering it's a quarterback, it's Miami, which is a up and down, I'd say, performing football program. But it's pretty cool to see, right, where they're trying different things, and that's where you got to give props to, right, where they're not just going the traditional route of, hey, we're only going to be partnering with hockey, the purists of hockey, right, where they're trying to say anything. They're trying to see what their audience is actually interested in, and then kind of tie those interests back to hockey, which I'm a fan of. I think it's a great move. What about you, AJ?
I was surprised because if I'm right, this is their first athlete that they've signed, right?
Yeah.
I was surprised as to why it wasn't a hockey player, if I'm honest. And I was more interested to see in what their criteria behind the decision. So whether they base it off of social value, if they see it as an athletic potential, why would they go someone from a sport they're not necessarily affiliated? So I was kind of trying to understand, why would they go for a hockey player that they see being an NHL star in the future? But then it also raises the question, if something like this does happen in the future where there are professional teams becoming basically affiliates for these up-and-coming athletes, where does that position them into? Can they even do stuff for their own sport? So if it's the Florida Panthers, can they have hockey players? Because what if they get drafted and they're not get drafted to Florida, right? Can they legally and I don't want to say ethically, but is it right for them to sponsor and represent athletes to play for a rival team, for example? Like if let's say Ottawa Senators, because obviously me and Chris are biased, if let's say Ottawa did the same thing and they sign a player that eventually gets drafted and plays for Winnipeg, or plays for Toronto, or plays for Montreal, how does that balance out? Right?
I think I can answer that quickly if you don't mind, because I think I can answer that. Not quickly, but part of that, because the other part I do agree with. The first extent, just think about Florida, right? A hockey player, them signing another hockey player, that doesn't create any pull in. Obviously, we work in hockey and we look at the metrics. Obviously, hockey players that even in OHL, college, whatever, they have really good engagement, right? Like we were looking at it last week. I think we were looking at guys that were 30% and they're 1,500 followers, even guys up to 5K. They all kind of maintain that high engagement rate. But that doesn't have pull in Florida, right? It's another hockey player. They already have, 23 guys on their roster that aren't pulling enough people in. But what pulls in that market is football, right? The SEC, they're trying to get guys for ACC. Isn't Florida Gators? Anyways, that college stuff all messes me up. But anyways, he pulls, right? In regards to, he'll pull a new audience there. He'll pull even maybe just the Florida audience to the team, right? But that's where it doesn't make sense. In regards to Canada, and let's use the Senators as an example, it doesn't make sense in regards to, I'd say, hockey or any other sport, signing a hockey player that isn't professional, because they don't have that standing, right? These guys come out of school and they have already 100,000 followers, because people are just nuts about football and basketball in the States, right? Student athletics is massive, right? And I've talked about it with people on, the other podcasts we have, the route, where the system they have in the States for athletics and academics is just different, right? Where high school sports matters, right? Where almost in Canada, it's more so of
I feel like it's more a developmental thing here, right?
yeah,
It's not.
like high school sports in Canada is much more of a like an activity, right? An extracurricular activity,
Yeah.
right? So
You
I think that's the difference.
Yeah, you wouldn't go to a different high school in Ottawa just to play a sport. In the States, you will go halfway across the country to be at a high school where you're playing in a stadium with over like 60,000 fans in it, right?
Exactly,
So
and
it's
like some of these sports and some of these schools, they're already like, I'd say they're running it like a professional team in high school. Like if you go football in Texas, that's like a professional. Like it's almost more professional than CFL at times.
yeah.
But
What's really interesting about Derek King, the fact that you guys were asking questions and mentioning about like why him specifically, he's one of the most sought after NCAA athletes right now on the brand sponsorship side. He's already got at least 6 endorsement deals signed. He's with Panini and they're releasing like special edition cards with him. He's got his own merch line on his own website and stuff. And I was looking at his follower accounts on Instagram, comparing it to the rest of the 2022 NFL quarterbacks or NFL drafted potential quarterbacks. Because if I'm not mistaken, I think Derek King potentially could have declared for the 2021 draft, but he opted out and chose to go back to college. Looking at the social media and comparing it to like the ranks, I think Yahoo Sports has him as the 16th best quarterback in the draft. But I was comparing his following with the draft, or with the following of some of the other high guys in the draft, like Spencer Rattler, Sam Howell, Malik Willis, and Carson Strong. One of them has about over 300K followers, which is crazy to think about, obviously, but his 42K followers is right up there with like the rest of the top 5 NBA NFL draft hopefuls in terms of the quarterback position. So clearly he's got something on his social media side and his social brand that provides value to the Florida Panthers and to brands all over. Regardless of whether he has a successful NFL career or not, it'd be interesting to see if, like, you know, if he gets into the NFL, can he still leverage these endorsements, especially the one with the Florida Panthers. From what I'm seeing, the Florida Panthers agreement is more of like investing in local talent in order to pry in local fan support as well. So it will be a short-term endorsement deal while they're still in college. I assume after Derek King goes pro, he won't necessarily be tied to the Panthers as closely anymore. But for, like Chris said, while the years they're there in that college system, and while college sports is so big in Florida and especially in South Florida, it helps connect the Florida Panthers to the community, because the Panthers are notoriously one of the worst teams in terms of attendance metrics in the NHL. They're pretty much one of the basement dwellers year in, year out. The team's getting better now, which obviously is going to help, but I think moves like these are really important, and they kind of tie hand in hand, where finally the team's achieving some success, and so now the strategy and marketing team has like the green light to go bold, sign these athletes, kind of hop on these opportunities to finally be able to put a product on ice and put butts in seats for ultimately what seems to be a very exciting team, and a team looking to make a stamp and cement themselves as one of the top teams in Florida, which is hard to do when you have the Tampa Bay Lightning just, you know, a couple of miles away.
I was just going to say that. So quickly before we move on to the last topic here, that's a great point. Just in the maybe the not Panthers. Man, what is it today? Just all over the place. But in regards to the Panthers and the Lightning, maybe that's where it's almost proof of concept where, hey, hockey actually does work in Florida. You just got to invest in it a bit more, right? So maybe that's why they're also starting to put more money into it. Also, they have a better product that they can showcase on the field now or on the ice. Well, then another question I maybe have that you kind of mentioned earlier, and as you're kind of saying this because I don't really know him that well in regards to his performance, but you're saying he's rated like 16th in the draft upcoming, right? So realistically, if he's rated that low, his professional career is going to go that far. So maybe would you say, as an athlete here, do you think he would come back because he heard NIL was going to take place, come back for a 4th year because he is at the upper echelon where he's playing at a big school, there's lots of attention, he's maximizing his time with that potential, you know, personal brand, right? Or that's the whole thing we're trying to do too, well marketing, where it's, you know, maximizing your time under the spotlight. So maybe he identified that, like, hey, as confident as I am in my, you know, football abilities, I'm not going to be Tom Brady, right? Even though Tom Brady was a late pick, but you know what I mean. Maybe that's what he's doing here, and maybe that's also another reason where other guys and girls are probably a little more hesitant to sign as many deals or get involved or, you know, kind of put their sporting career on the side. Say, I don't know what he's doing, but maybe that's also a reason why he's signing so much. He's like, hey, let's maximize and build out these relationships now while I can, because I only got one more year to this, right? So I think that's
Yeah, I was reading a bunch of articles and they said Derek King is one of the most sought after athletes, and that part was the biggest question because all the research I tried to do and like what I could try from what I could read and kind of assess, he's not the biggest name or brand name in the NCAA. Whether you look at any sport, especially football, I would even be surprised to know if he's the best quarterback in Florida, considering the Gators exist. But just looking at that, I think he's making the right move, whether he's investing in himself or not. Obviously, there's a story of the kicker who played in the NCAA, and I think he basically just retired and said he didn't want to be an NCAA player anymore because he had a social media account that he wanted to grow, and now he's got like millions of followers, and he's able to monetize his social media following there. So either Derek King and his camp are really smart and they know what they're doing, but regardless of where his career goes, and he's setting himself onto a solid platform, like you mentioned, Chris, with the whole formula that we have here at White Whale, where he's maximizing his time in the spotlight and trying to create a sustainable model for him to be an ambassador for the game, the sport, as well as just the Florida area beyond his pro career.
Yeah, and just kind of touch on that again. One of the things is obviously I've actually watched like Spencer Rattler since I think he was in high school because he was on this show called like QB1 when it was on YouTube, and now it's on Netflix if you want to check it out. But so I'm familiar with that name. He's been a big name. So when you say that Derek King, has more or what is one of the more sought after athletes, maybe that's also because those top end athletes are like, hey, like we're not at my full potential yet, right? Where if he, Rattler ends up going number 1 or top 10, he's going to have way more following, right? He's going to have much more opportunities where the deals he's getting offered now aren't maybe that interesting. Whereas maybe someone now is already at that peak and they're trying to like push that to the next level. And you mentioned one other point there at the end. You want to remind me just at the end of that because I forgot it already.
Talking about being an ambassador and being like a good brand to, or like just being a good athlete or influencer post career as well, right? Kind of setting himself for a nice foundation of success.
No, yeah, no, I completely agree with all that. But hey, like props to him. And in regards to destroying. So actually, I was watching destroying when he was at UCF way back when he was kind of doing his vlogs when he's still part of the team. So I actually saw that whole journey take place, and it's pretty wild. Where he was basically forced to retire or give up his YouTube, and his YouTube was actually driving revenue, which was helping make a living away from the field. And funny enough, being in Canada, he ended up coming to the CFL and going with the Argos. But I think he was third, and I think I watched a video where saying maybe they're kind of using him more for media. Also, who knows, right? Where is his talent there? Because a lot of people say if your talent's there, then they'll find you, right? So interesting times, but that's an interesting story if you're looking at it as own, especially in regards to a kicker in his YouTube, right? So that's cool stuff. But we're just talking about the signing of Derek King with Florida Panthers. Now we got another big signing, right? Probably one of the biggest signings we'll have in our lifetime, I'd say, unless some crazy things take place here in the near future. But as we spoke about last week, Messi is no longer with Barcelona, but he's now with Paris Saint-Germain, right? So, it was kind of expected because not many other people had the money or the means to actually sign Messi. And isn't it 50 million a year, right? So,
500K.
Just ridiculous numbers here, right? So last week we kind of touched on, if you want to see episode 3, it's on all platforms. You can check that out if you want to hear what we said. But we're talking about what that departure has to Barcelona, right? In regards to sponsorship, his brand, etc. This week, let's look at it more of the front of, hey, like what kind of opportunities does he now provide to this new club, right? Obviously, he's entering a new market right now. So maybe before his audience was obviously global, but strongly, I'd say in like Spanish cultures, right? Because he's always either played for obviously Argentina or Barcelona. But now he's entering the French market, right? Where maybe he was a rival before. Now he's going to be a fan favorite. Where, I was watching things as he was, arriving in Paris, and it seems like it was I don't know, like a high-speed police chase, right? Where people are just watching the airport, watching his house, making sure, he just left his place, he's going to the airport, or he just landed in Paris. And then, as we saw right before we started the podcast here, their last 24 posts, so starting here, were all Lionel Messi, which is just
24.
ridiculous. But it makes sense, right? So let's get into that. What do you guys think about this? He's finally signed with a new club, first time in his career away from Barcelona. what do you guys think here? What do you think the impact is going to have on PSG?
Brilliant. I don't know necessarily in the short term. I think it's brilliant. Just from my perspective, from the rumors that have been happening, in the short term, in terms of their return on their investment, is going to be absolutely ridiculous because not only the shirt sales alone will cover his salary for the 3 years that he's supposed to be there, but the only issue that I have is the long term because they're saying as a result of this, they're going to lose Kylian Mbappe, who's what, he's 21 or 22, and this guy has won more than half of the athletes in the entire world. Like he's won the French league, hasn't won the Champions League, but he's won the World Cup. He's been playing for 4 or 5 years now in the top leagues, and he's essentially the face of football alongside Erling Haaland. But they're saying he could be going to Madrid now. So I don't know in the long term if they keep Mbappe for the next 10 years or Messi in the next 3 years. I'm wondering where that balance is going to be. Will the fact that they keep Messi for 3 years but lose Mbappe, will that be negative for them? Or will the fact that Messi's coming in and Mbappe leaving just be so beneficial in terms of social value and their return on their investment? So I'm interested to see what the long-term effects will be. But, I mean, for the time being, I mean, they've just signed the GOAT, the best player in the world. The shirt sales are going to be ridiculous. The fan attendance, we saw the reactions from all the fans being there. And not only that, they've had the best transfer market window in history. They signed Messi for free. They signed Jorginho Wijnaldum for Liverpool, Champions League and Premier League winner and midfielder for free. They signed Sergio Ramos, one of the most decorated center backs and Spanish players of all time, Euro winner, World Cup winner, 3-time Champions League winner. They've signed who else? They've signed. They've kept Neymar. They got him to sign. They signed Donnarumma, the Italian goalie and AC Milan goalie. Like their future, not only from a sport perspective, but the marketing perspective is literally ridiculous. They have this Jordan brand, which no other team has. They've signed Messi. They have Mbappe, Messi, and Neymar in the same team. So I think for them, it's ridiculous. They're going to be very successful in the next 2 years.
You mentioned Jordan at the end, and I think it's so funny because Messi is a lifetime Adidas guy, right?
Adidas.
Well, I wonder what the clash is going to be like. Like, the Jordan brand, obviously, it's a team thing, and obviously Messi's an Adidas athlete. But if the most marketable athlete on Paris Saint-Germain is going to be Lionel Messi, who's an Adidas athlete, how are interactions between the Jordan brand going to work? What access are they going to have to Messi? Obviously, he's going to be wearing the kit, and every time he's wearing the kit, that's immense value there. But beyond that, what kind of content is the Jordan brand going to be able to do with Messi's deal? And I think everyone's obviously excited about it. I think the Jordan brand is also obviously excited because even looking at this post and with the 8 million likes, or even with this one with 5 million likes, just having the Jordan logo there and having the jersey kit sales of the Jordan logo are going to be huge. But to a certain extent, you got to be a little salty if you're working on the Jordan marketing side, where you're just like, you know what, Neymar and Mbappe, great marketing tools you had as the Jordan brand, but now you're being overshadowed by an Adidas athlete in Messi. So it'll be interesting to see what they do on the marketing side.
Well, that's an interesting point. They lost Neymar. Neymar's Puma. He's not even Nike anymore.
Well, there you go. The Jordan fans are. The Jordan marketing must be kicking themselves.
Neymar was Jordan brand.
Yeah, he was Jordan. He was Nike. Then he left. They got Mbappe. So it's they've got their best 3 players, their most marketable, most profitable players. Mbappe is Nike, Neymar is Puma, and you've got Messi as a lifetime Adidas. So.
Who's Ronaldo signed with?
He's been Nike. Yeah.
Okay. Lifetime deal. Come on, Harl. You should know that.
Yes, brand, yeah.
Wrong football. My bad, guys.
Yeah, very, very interesting stuff, right? Where, there's just so much to talk about, right? Where I'm just all over the place, but, I think even just in regards to the amount of money that they're throwing around, obviously they got a lot of free transfers, but they are like that cool brand where they're almost like a fashion brand as well. Obviously, being in Paris, it has a little more enticing, and maybe they take things from the local market kind of influence that way. But even their merchandise, right? Like that T-shirt that he was wearing everywhere, right? That's a nice T-shirt. It looks like a designer fashion T-shirt, and I looked into it, and we ended up making our own T-shirt because we had to profit off the moment here, right? But it looks like the T-shirt he's wearing, and even this one, if you want to find it, whitewhalemarketing.shop, always be plugging. But it looks like a high fashion brand, right? Where even their merchandise that they're selling to their fans, now they have another huge name wearing it around, right? Where that shirt was sold out on Fanatics, right? Like I was looking into it to see hey, like, what is this shirt? Is it just something that he made himself, or is the team saying or like selling it? And it's just incredible, right? Where the amount of merch, you're talking about jerseys, even just their Jordan brand partnership. I don't know when that ends or when that starts, right? Or when that started, but if they're up for renegotiations and it's within the time that Messi's there, you definitely know they're going to be asking for a better penny there, right? Where it's just incredible. And when I just looked at this quickly here too, I swore I saw a FIFA post, right? So this is FIFA, no? So how much do you think that FIFA paid for this one,
A
right?
lot of
Like, when have you seen that before? A player signs. Obviously, there's a bunch of you guys are talking about that transfer window, but when have you seen them almost kind of say, "Hey, look at our guys on FIFA now," right? Where
if you look at if you click on the EA Sports link
Mhm.
there, their Instagram. I
Okay.
want to see if it did the transfer today, the most recent post. Yeah, right there, first one. Lukaku signed for Chelsea, and they did the exact same thing. Right, they're already
It's
showing.
smart. It's smart though because they have those like that licensing deal where they can actually promote those teams, right, and those signings, so they have access to the logo, and they're still like promoting their product as well, right? Where that's pretty interesting, and also we don't need to go down that rabbit hole, but it's kind of going back to this focus in regards to Messi because as we kind of prepare for this podcast, there's so many things we can talk about. But look at this. This is something that Haral sent in our group chat. So this is pre Messi signing, correct?
Yep.
And then this is post, but I think Haral at the beginning of this podcast, he was saying they're already at 45 million. So just in regards to media value right there, like they doubled their Instagram. And then imagine that just across all their different platforms, even just the videos that they were doing, right? The amount of engagement, people are like, hey, like, what is this? Like, obviously everyone knows it's Messi, but I'm not even a PSG fan. And I watched every single piece of content they had in regards to that because that's very intrigued and it was very good quality as well. So it's it's wild. Like there's not much words that you can say in regards to this, right? And even if you look here, I'm just looking at this now. What is that? 16 posts, and within 16 posts, they got an extra 20 million. Like,
And that's the craziest thing, right? Like doubling your followers, depending on your account, it could mean like you got an extra like what 1,000 followers, 10,000 followers, heck, even 1 million followers. But not only did they double it, they were already a huge account, right? You had 20 million followers, and Messi just came in and said, "I've got 25 more."
yeah,
Wow.
it's and the thing too, like we were looking at this before the podcast, just because these numbers are just wild. So they had posts in regards to training, and obviously some of their videos kind of maintain the same numbers now of when Neymar was featured in it, around 4 million. But their training pictures before were about 300,000-400,000, and now the pictures obviously with Messi they're getting 8K or 8 million, and they have 40 million followers. So their engagement is essentially what? Obviously I didn't look at the comments, but it's around 25%, which is ridiculous, and you already have 40 million. So you're getting 8 million people, right? What isn't yeah, like what that's like 1/5 of Canada engaging with all your content essentially, which is just wild when you kind of put in metrics like that. And I can only imagine, right, where who knows where obviously EA was like, hey, let's piggyback on this and let's get something going, which is smart, right? Because they're getting when people are most engaged and they want to see that Messi content, right? They want to see him in the PSG apparel, right? That's why they're always posting the. It's not going back here. That's why they're always posting the um, everything involving him, right? They just want to see him on the logo because that's what people want now. So it's smart to see FIFA capitalizing on that, and I wonder if other brands are going to soon be doing that as well, right? So
Yep. And I
yeah,
think almost you have to do all these posts because like the crazy thing is with like Lionel Messi, a lot of his brands and stuff, like, the number 10 is what you associate with him. And he's wearing 30 at PSG, right? So it's almost like you have to, we talked about, is this too many posts and stuff? Obviously I think AJ said it best when there's never enough posts. It's literally Lionel Messi. But also you've got to get like the entire soccer, or sorry, I should say the entire football community used to Messi wearing number 30 now.
yeah,
And so it's something where like I think no matter when I'll see it, like obviously growing up watching Messi and wearing the number 10 jersey for every team that he's played for so long, you're not gonna be able to get used to that number 30, but they've got to find a way to just, almost try their best to make people forget about number 10 Messi and try to bring in this new like number 30 Messi and try to I don't even know how you do it, but you got to get people used to the fact that he's wearing 30 now and that like, the Barcelona chapter is closed.
Yeah, but that's like the whole thing where you're almost like, obviously it's still the same person, but it's almost like moving on to a different like brand right now, or a new chapter, right? Where all those people that are diehard fans of Messi, they're like, oh, I only have Messi on 10, right, with Argentina or Barcelona. I got to go get that 30 jersey. And obviously I'm Portuguese, so I'm more of a Ronaldo guy naturally. But like I see this jersey, first off, Jordan just makes a slick jersey. Paris puts that touch on it too, where it just looks, classy, like something that you could almost wear out, which is nice, right, with those collars and those accents. And then you have just like it's almost like sports history taking place, right, where you're seeing this huge athlete moving over, right? It's like Jordan going to the Wizards, Gretzky going to one of the many teams he went to, right? But then Brady going to the Bucks, right? It's something where like almost everyone becomes a fan of him now, right? They're like, oh wow, like I want to watch him like do his first game with PSG, or Brady with the Bucks. People want to see that take place now because maybe they almost hated him winning all the time with Barcelona, but now it's, hey, like what is he gonna do, right? Hey, like can he do it? Is he old enough, or is he too old? Does he still have it in him? What's 30 versus 10, right? So, it is crazy, and we can obviously talk about it forever. But very cool. I also like their hashtag, the PSG X Messi, almost like a collab. So, yeah, no, that's good stuff. Any other comments you guys have on this?
Oh, we could talk for hours.
Yeah, exactly. I would just say, the entire world is watching now because Messi's on PSG. So both on and off the field, the pressure's on, and it's time to capitalize.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. And obviously, we're more sport marketing related, but do you think they have it in them to win the Champions League? Because obviously, that bet pays off. Yeah,
100%.
fair enough.
I don't know. I've seen some teams make a lot of great signings. I gotta rep Manchester United, baby. We got Varane, we got Sancho. I don't care how bold of a take it is, but give me that Champions League trophy. If Chelsea can do it, so can we.
What'd you say?
If Chelsea can do it, so can we.
Yeah. No, fair enough. But hey, you know what? Soccer, football, whatever you want to call it, it has the world talking, right? Where we had the Euros. You had, at least here in Canada, with the woman winning gold. That's something we didn't even get to talk about, right? Where that alone is going to have an impact on the sport as a whole, right? At least here.
That's funny. We'll talk about that next week for sure, because Kadisha Buchanan and Ashley Lawrence, who are two Bramptonians who won the gold medal, were actually at City Hall last night. And I was there covering it for Brampton Focus Community Media. So I got to interview them and stuff as well. So that'll be a nice story to tell next week. So I think the momentum of that gold medal should not stop after they've won it. So whether we talk about it next week or a month from now, I don't think we'll ever be able to stop talking about women's soccer in Canada.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like the funny thing too is, at the beginning of the week when we have our meeting on Monday, we're like, okay, let's just talk. Maybe we don't all have ideas right away, but I know even for myself, once it gets to like Wednesday night or Thursday morning, I have like 4 things I want to talk about, right? So obviously that's a good thing that we do this every Thursday. If you want to watch our video podcast, it always comes out at 8 p.m. on Thursdays on Twitch and YouTube. Facebook is live once we start recording, so usually around 5, 6. And then it's also available at a later date on anything on podcasting, Spotify, Google, all that good stuff, etc. So check us out there. Don't forget to follow White Whale Marketing. And if you haven't already, check out our collaboration partner, the Sport Marketeer. You can check our description to subscribe to the newsletter. The newsletter comes out every Friday and kind of has the topics we spoke about today in more depth via writing, right? So if you can't listen to us for some reason and you just want to read something on the bus, or in between your breaks at work, check it out. So thanks for watching, guys, and have a good weekend.